Berlin has done the unthinkable. After years of hesitation, quiet deals, and moral speeches about restraint, Germany has just crossed a line that Europe once thought was untouchable, a line that leaves even Kyiv staring in disbelief. So what happens when Europe's cautious powerhouse suddenly decides to stop waiting and start acting? Berlin just answered that question in the most dramatic way possible. In October 2025, Germany announced over 2 billion euros in new weapon systems for Ukraine, a package so vast it reshapes the battlefield against Russia. Advanced Patriot and Iris-T air defense systems, long-range drones, precision artillery, and joint weapons production, all moving beyond the old limits of restraint and hesitation. Kyiv was left speechless. NATO allies were caught off guard. Moscow seethed. And for Washington, it's a warning. Germany is no longer waiting for permission. The world remembers how long Berlin hid behind moral caution. Every major decision, from sending Leopard tanks to approving ammunition shipments, came late, wrapped in hesitation and fear of escalation. But this is escalation in its purest form, a geopolitical detonation dressed as cooperation. Because what Germany just set in motion isn't a simple arms deal, it's a signal of intent, a declaration that the era of quiet dependence may be over. It's Berlin testing how far it can go before the United States or Russia forces it to stop. And Kyiv? Kyiv can hardly believe it. The very nation that once refused to send helmets now wants to build weapons inside Ukraine. It's as if the last 3 decades of restraint just collapsed overnight. This is the moment Germany stopped talking and started rewriting the rules of engagement. This is the Zeitenwende Germany promised: sudden, decisive, unstoppable. So the October 2025 package was more than a headline. It was a seismic shift in Ukraine's battlefield. Over 2 billion euros poured into air defense systems, precision-guided artillery, rockets, and advanced radar networks. For Ukraine, these systems were a shield against Russia's relentless winter missile campaigns, capable of intercepting drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic threats. But Germany did not stop at static defenses. A 400 million euro investment in long-range drone production unlocked offensive capability on a scale Kyiv had never possessed. Antonov, 196, and AI enabled strike drones now patrolled the skies with German funding, able to reach deep into Russian supply lines, command centers, and logistical hubs. Each shipment was a message, and Moscow was listening. And this escalation was part of a broader commitment. Germany contributes 9 billion euros annually in military aid, making it Kyiv's largest European backer and second only to the United States. In October alone, Berlin fast-tracked $500 million to NATO's prioritized Ukraine requirements list, PURL, for US-made weapons, with Estonia, Finland, Lithuania, and Sweden joining this accelerated initiative. The effect was immediate. Ukraine's airspace was no longer a vulnerability, but a fortified zone. Patriot batteries created multi-layered interception, while Iris-T systems added precision and flexibility. For the first time, Ukrainian commanders could plan operations with confidence that their skies were protected and that Russian attacks would now come at a cost. Yet the weapons alone were only half the shock. What Germany revealed next changed the nature of Europe's war economy itself. Germany's role in Ukraine had moved beyond aid. In May 2025, Chancellor Friedrich Merz and President Zelensky signed an agreement that would forever redefine European military support. Joint production of long-range missiles, drones, and cruise systems on Ukrainian and German soil. And this was not just donation, it was co-creation, a full-scale defense ecosystem designed to sustain and amplify Ukraine's war-fighting capacity. By late July 2025, the first German-funded Ukrainian long-range systems arrived in operational units, reaching triple-digit quantities by year-end. These systems, including Antonov 196 drones, were capable of striking deep into Russian territory depots, airfields, command centers, reshaping the strategic calculus on both sides of the front. German companies spearheaded the industrial leap. Rheinmetall expanded ammunition production and supplied 155mm artillery, Leopard tanks, Marder infantry fighting vehicles, and Skynex air defense systems. Helsing committed 10,000 AI-enabled strike drones, creating a swarm capability that could overwhelm Russian defenses. Quantum Systems achieved full localization of vector drone production in Ukraine, employing 80 personnel and producing 1,000 units annually. If you're enjoying this deep dive, please like the video and consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us bring more global insights. Now, back to the video. The model was revolutionary. Ukraine no longer relied on sporadic shipments. It now had autonomous production and repair capacity, ensuring sustainability even under constant Russian pressure. Maintenance, upgrades, and battlefield adaptation became seamless, a capability previously exclusive to only the most advanced militaries. This industrial partnership also created a knowledge exchange, allowing Ukraine to assimilate German technological expertise, while Germany gained invaluable real-time battlefield data. For Kyiv, it meant survival. For Berlin, it meant something deeper: the end of its post-war restraint. On May 26, 2025, Germany shattered one of the most respected rules of post-war military aid. Chancellor Merz declared at the WDR Europa Forum, "There are no longer any range restrictions on weapons delivered to Ukraine, neither by the British, nor by the French, nor by US, nor by the Americans." The announcement reverberated across Kyiv, Brussels, and Moscow. For the first time, Ukraine could strike deep into Russian territory using Western-supplied systems, a capability once deemed politically and morally off-limits. Patriot missiles, cruise systems, and long-range drones could now traverse previously restricted distances, altering the strategic map of Eastern Europe overnight. The Kremlin reacted immediately, branding the decision as quite dangerous and a direct threat to peace settlement efforts. NATO allies, meanwhile, faced a quiet unease. Western European capitals recognized the military advantage, but worried about escalation and the optics of Germany pushing the envelope. Every weapon delivered carried not just firepower but a psychological signal to Moscow. The rules had changed, yet Germany's boldest move was its embrace of strategic ambiguity. The Taurus cruise missile, capable of striking 500 kilometers into Russian territory, became a symbol of this new doctrine. While Merz had previously expressed support as opposition leader, his administration now refused to confirm or deny deliveries, citing operational security. Shipments ceased being public knowledge, cloaked in secrecy, while Ukraine gained access to systems that could alter the entire dynamic of the war. The consequences were immediate and layered. Ukraine could hit high-value Russian military targets without constraint. Moscow faced an invisible threat. It could neither fully track nor preempt. NATO had to reconcile its collective posture with Germany's unilateral assertiveness. The May 26th announcement was more than policy. It was a symbolic rupture of decades-long caution, a redefinition of Germany's post-war identity as a military power willing to engage at strategic depth. The taboo had been broken, and with it, the moral firewall that had kept Germany cautious for decades. Germany's weapons commitment to Ukraine is not an isolated gesture. It is the living embodiment of the Zeitenwende, the historic defense revolution first announced by Chancellor Olaf Scholz in February 2022. A policy once theoretical became operational reality. Germany would no longer merely fund or supply. It would lead the European military. The numbers are staggering. Over the next 5 years, Germany plans to spend 649 billion euros, doubling its defense budget to reach NATO's 3.5% GDP target by 2029. Included in this is a steadfast commitment of 9 billion euros annually to Ukraine, cementing Berlin's role as Kyiv's indispensable European partner. Past contributions: 7.1 billion euros in 2024, 8.3 billion euros in 2025, and over 38 billion euros since February 2022, now merge into a coherent, multi-year strategy. Yet the path is not smooth. Internal debates rage. The Finance Ministry approved only 18 billion euros for 2026 to 2027, falling short of the 28.6 billion euros requested by the Defense Ministry. Frozen Russian assets, once controversial, are now eyed as potential sources to fill the gap. Berlin is racing against both time and tactical urgency, trying to equip Ukraine while keeping domestic politics in check. Every day of delay risks Moscow exploiting gaps. Every funding shortfall threatens operational continuity. The Zeitenwende is a statement of intent. Germany will no longer hide behind historical caution or political optics, but intent must be matched with industrial power. Budgets must become factories, and promises must be forged into weapons that can endure the crucible of war. But ambition needs steel, and steel needs factories. While Germany rewrote the rules of military aid, it also rebuilt the industrial backbone of European defense. At the heart of this effort stands Rheinmetall's mammoth ammunition plant, sprawling across an area equivalent to 5 football fields, producing NATO's standard 155mm artillery shells at unprecedented scale. By the end of 2025, Rheinmetall promised 25,000 shells delivered to Ukraine, with annual production projected to ramp up to 350,000 by 2027. For context, Russia manufactures roughly 4 to 5 million shells annually, while Europe produces about 2 million, over half supplied by Rheinmetall alone. The imbalance underscores both the challenge and the urgency. Germany and its allies had to rebuild Europe's war economy from the ground up, fast. The industrial leap extended beyond German borders. Rheinmetall established a joint venture in Ukraine, producing six-digit quantities of artillery rounds each year, with 51% German ownership and Ukrainian workforce integration. This partnership not only supplied Kyiv with essential munitions, but also embedded European production inside the theater of conflict, ensuring shorter supply chains and faster deployment. But Rheinmetall's factories are more than production sites. Tanks, Marder infantry fighting vehicles, J-Pard anti-aircraft guns, and Skynex air defense systems flowed alongside artillery shells, turning budget lines into battlefield realities. Germany was no longer donating, it was creating a European war economy in its own image, a sustainable infrastructure capable of outlasting Russia's industrial output. While Berlin built factories, Washington built terms, and the next shock came from across the Atlantic. In July 2025, the unexpected shock came not from Moscow, but from across the Atlantic. President Trump unveiled a radical arrangement. The United States would continue to manufacture and supply weapons to Ukraine, but European allies would cover 100% of the costs. The plan was as audacious as it was transactional. Washington retained production control while offloading financial responsibility entirely onto Europe. Germany, far from balking, embraced the deal immediately. Chancellor Merz framed it with clarity and ambition. President Trump has taken an important initiative. The U.S. will provide Ukraine with weapons on a large scale if the European partners finance this. We are doing this in our own interest. This will help Ukraine defend itself against Russia's bombing terror. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte confirmed the arrangement in Brussels. Europe would pay, and pay fully. Behind the diplomatic phrasing, the reality was stark. Berlin now controlled the flow of weapons into Ukraine, projecting influence across the continent while simultaneously securing its moral justification. Defending Ukraine, defending Europe. The deal fundamentally reconfigured transatlantic burden sharing. The U.S. maintained its industrial edge, ensuring production efficiency and technological oversight, while Germany and its European partners bore the economic weight. Yet Germany turned obligation into opportunity, leveraging the plan to assert central leadership in Europe's defense strategy. For Kyiv, the implications were immediate. A reliable, well-funded weapons pipeline. For Berlin, it was proof that Germany could shape continental security without Washington's direct intervention. And so, for the first time since 1945, Europe's defense no longer ran through Washington, it ran through Berlin. Germany's commitment to Ukraine did not end at delivery. In 2025, Berlin unveiled a comprehensive modernization and maintenance program, ensuring every weapon system remained battlefield-ready, adaptable, and lethal. F-16 upgrades, artillery calibration, radar optimization, and drone software enhancements were integrated into joint operations, turning static deliveries into dynamic, evolving tools of war. Memoranda of understanding signed at Ukraine Defense Contact Group meetings codified German-Ukrainian industrial cooperation, allowing German engineers to guide repairs, optimize logistics, and adapt weapons to Ukraine's shifting battlefield conditions. Every maintenance schedule, every recalibrated system provided Germany with a real-time window into modern war, from drone swarm coordination to electronic countermeasures. For Berlin, the learning curve was steep. The data flowing from Ukraine's front lines informed Germany's own military doctrine, shaping procurement priorities, training programs, and tactical strategies. A nation long confined by post-war restraint was now rediscovering its military identity through the survival of another. Lessons in rapid adaptation, long-range precision strikes, and integrated air defense were no longer hypothetical. They were live exercises in geopolitical consequence. The emotional weight of this collaboration was profound. Every repaired radar, every upgraded missile system, every functioning Leopard tank represented not only a fight for Ukraine's survival, but also a reawakening of Germany's role in European defense. In helping Kyiv endure, Berlin was simultaneously shaping its own future as a continental security guarantor. But war isn't fought with missiles alone. It's fought with light, heat, and survival through the cold. As Germany poured weapons into Ukraine, it recognized a parallel battlefield, the power grid. By October 2025, Berlin allocated a €60 million winter defense package, restoring critical energy infrastructure shattered by Russian attacks. Over 32,000 units of equipment, from transformers to substations, were delivered, ensuring heat and electricity reached millions facing the icy grip of winter. German industrial giants Siemens, RWE, and E.ON became frontline partners, reconstructing thermal power plants, gas compressors, and transmission networks. Germany's strategy was clear. Ukraine's defense was now two-fronted. Missiles guarded the skies, transformers guarded the night. The human impact was immediate. Families kept warm, hospitals remained powered, and industry continued. But the political impact was even more profound. Europe was watching, measuring Berlin's rising influence and operational audacity. And then the realization struck. The continent's defense architecture had fundamentally shifted. America had not disappeared. Germany had replaced it. The transatlantic balance, long assumed immutable, was now centered in Berlin, and the implications for NATO, the EU, and the war in Ukraine were staggering. The battlefield is no longer just in Ukraine. It stretches across Brussels boardrooms, Berlin ministries, and European capitals. With American engagement reduced under the Trump administration, Europe confronted a stark reality. Its weapons stockpiles were nearly empty, its war economy untested, and its commitments hanging in balance. Germany stepped into the breach. The €200 billion frozen Russian central bank assets loomed as potential leverage, with proposals to channel them into EU-backed bonds for Ukrainian financing. Berlin had initially resisted, wary of legal hurdles, but Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil signaled a pragmatic shift. Europe needed action, not delay. The NATO fast-track program, delivering $500 million in weapons monthly, offered relief, but only with one caveat. Europe bore the financial burden. Germany emerged not just as a contributor, but as Europe's logistical and financial backbone, covering American manufacturing costs while shaping the alliance's operational tempo. Yet this leadership came with tension. The Taurus missile, capable of striking deep into Russian territory, remains a subject of strategic ambiguity. Merz's government neither confirms nor denies deliveries, balancing operational security against domestic and coalition scrutiny. Symbolically, it marks Germany's evolution, from helmets-only restraint in 2022 to Europe's arsenal by 2025. The arc is unmistakable. Hesitation gave way to decisiveness. Pacifism yielded to industrial and military assertiveness. Germany is no longer the cautious backer, it is the European pivot, the guarantor of Kyiv's survival, and the architect of a post-American security order. What began as hesitation has become leadership, but leadership always comes with a cost. In Kyiv, the silence was not empty. It was heavy with disbelief. The €2 billion October package, the drone factories, the joint production lines, the lifting of range restrictions, all of it sent a message louder than any missile. Germany had transformed itself overnight, from hesitant donor to indispensable partner. Analysts across Europe scrambled to recalibrate their assumptions. For decades, Germany had been cautious, constrained by history, wary of escalation. Now, with €9 billion annually pledged, a wartime industrial base expanding, and energy infrastructure secured, Berlin had redefined the very mechanics of European defense. NATO could still debate, Brussels could still deliberate, but on the ground in Ukraine, the reality was tangible. Germany was leading, not following. And yet, this shot carries its own weight. With ambition comes scrutiny, with leadership comes responsibility, and with unprecedented power comes historical memory. Germany's choices will echo far beyond Ukraine, shaping Europe's security architecture for years, perhaps decades. Germany's shocking move left Ukraine speechless, not in fear, but in awe. The question now is whether Berlin's new courage can survive the weight of history it just awakened. If you found this analysis valuable, please consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into geopolitics. We would love to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.